Today's topics, we will be discussing about casting defects. In dental materials, if you see, the weightage that your questions carry are about 10 to 12 questions comes most of the years from dental materials. And dental materials is very commonly a very neglected topic, if you ask me, because that's something that you keep for the last all the time. But it has a lot of weightage because most of the dentistry has a base in dental materials. Without knowing the material part of it, you are not able to move forward with the other part in dentistry. So we will be focusing on casting defects today, not necessarily about every aspect in casting, just the casting defects. Okay. So before I go on directly jump into casting defects, I will just enlist the steps, or you should know where you're talking about casting. Now, casting is something that you will be doing when you're fabricating a prosthesis, something like a crown, a inlay, onlay, a cast partial denture. All of this, anything that has to go through a casting or a metal has to be fused into it, that you will be going through a casting procedure. Now, the different types of casting and your investment material and all will be covered later on in different topics. But today we'll be focusing on casting defects, because when you see a lot of questions in your previous question papers, there are a lot of questions which is repeatedly asked from casting defects. So you should know the weightage of the questions that you should be going through. So that is what is important. So the steps in a crown fabrication, first is definitely your tooth preparation, which happens in the patient's mouth. Then you take an impression of the prepared tooth. Then you pour a cast, do a die cutting, and on the die, you make a wax pattern. Onto this wax pattern, before you invest the wax pattern, you have some procedures. That is, first you attach a sprue. Onto that, then you attach it to the crucible former, and then place a casting ring with a liner, and then you pour the investment. After you pour the investment, then you let it set. Then you have the burnout or a wax elimination technique, which is used in the casting furnace. Then you mold the metal and push molten metal into this wax pattern. That is called as casting. Then after the casting procedure is completed, there is something called as recovery of the casting. You cut it from the sprue, do the finishing and polishing, and then the final delivery. Now, these are the general procedures that happen when you're fabricating anything, maybe a crown or a cast partial. These are the general procedures. Definitely, you have some amount of changes depending on the type of process that you're going to be placing. So this is just a pictorial representation. You have a wax pattern on a die, and then you have the sprue which is attached to the wax pattern. Now, and then you have the investment which is done. You burn it out, then you cast it with the metal, and then you retrieve it. Now, coming to casting defects. Casting defects is usually classified under 4 topics, headings. Basically, first is your distortion. Second is your surface roughness or irregularities. Third is your porosity. And last is your incomplete or missing details. Now, coming to porosity, porosity is definitely one of the most commonly asked topics for MCQs, because you have a lot of types of porosities. You know, you have a suck back porosity, you have localized shrinkage porosity, you have pinhole porosity, gas inclusion porosity, etc. We will be discussing all these in the later slides. So your questions are mostly seen from these. Then you have a lot of questions which come from your sprue, about your sprue width, your sprue length, your attachment of the sprue, and things like that. Distortion and surface roughness and incomplete missing details. Not too many questions have been asked, but definitely you should be in a position to know the difference between these. That is why we will be discussing these under 4 headings. And only then we will move on to the questionnaire session. I have put up 5 questions at last, where it will be helpful for you all to answer, because you will be learning about these first, and then we will be going to the questions. Coming to the distortion. Distortion, why does distortion take place? Everybody, all of you guys must be knowing, what does distortion mean? When you're taking something, it changes position and distorts. So first and foremost, it could be because of the distortion of wax pattern. The second, it could be because expansion of the investment. You have something called a setting expansion and normal setting expansion and hygroscopic expansion for gypsum products. So both these expansion takes place, and that expansion of the investment will definitely give a slight amount of distortion to your wax pattern. Now, this, how does it show? It occurs as a non-uniform outward movement of mostly in the proximal walls. Distortion happens only because in the occlusal surface, there is an attachment between both the mesial and distal and the buccal and lingual sides. So you have a bar of wax which is there. Distortion does not happen there. But whereas your proximal walls are free from the gingival aspect, so there, that is the area where most of the distortion will happen. So just keep it in mind, distortion takes place mostly on the outward movement aspect of your proximal walls. Now, what are the factors which will influence the distortion? One is definitely the configuration of your pattern, your type of wax, type of your inlay wax, and definitely the thickness of your wax pattern. Now, as your thickness decreases, your distortion is bound to increase. And now, definitely, you know, you cannot increase the thickness beyond a certain limit, right? You have a particular thickness that you need for a pattern. So that will depend on the type of processes that you're doing. Now, depending on the setting expansion of the investment, that again, the lesser the setting expansion, the lesser the distortion. So that is regulated by the ideal water powder ratio of the investment material. Now, coming to surface roughness and irregularities, just so that you guys get an idea about what is the difference between roughness and irregularities, I've just stated that. Now, what is roughness? It is relatively finely spaced surface imperfections whose height, width, and direction establish the predominant surface pattern. Whereas surface irregularities are mostly isolated imperfections such as nodules, and they are not characteristics on the entire surface area. So the one which is present on the entire surface area is going to be roughness, and which is localized is going to be called as irregularities. Now, what are the various types of roughness and irregularities that you can come through when you see casting defects? Air bubbles, water films, rapid heating rates, underheating of the molten metal, the powder liquid ratio of the investment, prolonged heating or when you are doing the casting procedure, then temperature at which you are casting the molten alloy. Your casting pressure is very, very important. Then composition of your investment. As you know, you have different types of investment material. You have gypsum bonded, you have phosphate bonded. Your type of investment material also does matter. Then foreign body inclusion inside your investment, the impact of the molten metal, and pattern position, how you position your wax pattern inside the furnace, and carbon inclusions. So what are basically air bubbles? Air bubbles are small nodules which is caused. Now the best way to avoid an air bubble is to ideally have a vacuum investing technique where you do it in vacuum so you can eliminate air bubbles. Of course, when you're using a manual method, you should have a proper mechanical mixing. If possible, you have a vibrator which will eliminate all the air bubbles, and then you go for a proper investment technique. So in this picture, when you can see A are air bubbles, okay? The number A which is noted, that is air bubble. You can see here, this one, yes. Now coming to water film. Water film, what happens is wax is usually repellent to water. So if you have too much of water content in the investment, if it is too thin or too loose, like you say, then there is going to be a repulsion between the wax pattern and your investment material, which will form a thin layer out there, which will give a surface irregularity. Now, these are going to be shown as minute ridges or veins. So you can see in the picture as number B. These are minute ridges or veins which is seen on the surface because of water films that is caused. Okay. How about rapid heating rates? When you heat the alloy to a very high temperature and then you cast it very fast, there are chances there is cracking of the investment which happens. There is flow of the metal into it, and it causes something called as fins or spines. So fins or spines is caused because of rapid heating rates. What happens when you underheat your casting furnace? There is underheating, the ideal temperature is not reached. There is incomplete elimination of wax. There are two times when you heat the furnace, right? First time when you heat, you are trying to eliminate the wax from the wax pattern. It burns out. It's called as wax elimination technique or the burnout technique, lost wax technique. So that you have to burn out the wax. If the wax is not burnt out completely, your metal is not going to flow inside, and there is going to be incomplete or casting or because of the underheating. Again, like the liquid powder ratio, like I said, there can be a roughness of the casting which can result because of the water films that is caused. What happens when you have a prolonged heating? If you increase the heating temperature to a very high temperature, what usually happens is, especially if you're using gypsum bonded investment, it is going to disintegrate and the walls of the mold are going to crack. This cracking again will cause extrusion of the molten metal, which will cause roughness of the casting. Now the casting pressure, ideally when you say a gauge pressure of 0.1 to 1.14 MPa is the ideal casting for which is required. So if you increase more than that, it will not go for sufficient casting. So those were roughly about the surface irregularities and porosities, irregularities and roughness, which you will be seeing. We will be talking in detail about porosity. So porosity is very, very important because most of the questions that from NEET are regularly asked and repeatedly asked from this section. So it is very important that you recognize the difference between each of them. See, all of them, very, very minute differences. The causes are kind of like the same, or probably with minor differences here and there. So it's very important that you know them. Now, porosity, again, we will classify them as three. First will be the solidification defects. Second one will be due to trapped gases. And the third one will be due to residual air entrapment. So when you're casting, when your molten metal is flowing and suddenly it solidifies, at the stage of solidification, what defects happen is called as your solidification defects. In that, we will be discussing about localized shrinkage porosity and microporosity. Okay. Now, coming to trapped gases, we have three different types. You have pinhole porosity, you have gas inclusions, and you have subsurface porosity. And last, we will be talking about the residual air entrapment. What is localized shrinkage porosity? It is also called as shrink spot porosity. Now here, what happens is when you're doing the casting, your sprue solidifies before you finish the casting. That is a situation which causes localized shrinkage porosity. So this is due to insufficient feeding of the molten metal. See, when you start flowing the molten metal into your casting, what happens is it should be at a specific rate of flow, where it should not be at regular intervals. It should have a continuous flow of metal. Otherwise, what happens is half the way your molten metal is going to solidify, and then the rest of the molten metal does not have a space to flow into the casting. So you should have a continuous flow of molten metal so that you have a complete casting which takes place. This happens, mostly localized shrinkage porosity happens because there is a solidification of the metal most commonly inside the sprue. So to eliminate this, what happens? We do give something called as a reservoir in a sprue. So where does this usually occur? It occurs where the solidification occurs last. So ideally, when you have your crown, this is the place where your sprue is attached. So this is the area where your solidification has to occur last. Now, all the areas after you flow, this is the area which should be solidifying last. But when localized shrinkage porosity happens, this is where it's going to set first. That is how localized shrinkage porosity occurs. What is the remedy for this? First one, you attach a reservoir. So can you see in this picture, you have a wax pattern, okay? I'll just draw it with a marker. So this is where your wax pattern is. And this area is called as your reservoir because this is your sprue and this is your reservoir. So from your sprue, it's going to flow into your reservoir. Your reservoir holds the temperature and from there, it is going to move ahead into the wax pattern. Now, next is when you're placing your wax pattern inside the crucible former, you have two different zones inside the crucible former. Towards the center, that is towards this area of your crucible former, it is called as the heat zone or the heat center. And towards the sides, it is called as your cold zone. So you always try and position your sprue and wax pattern in a way that your sprue and reservoir is always inside the heat center, whereas your pattern or your wax pattern is always slightly angulated towards your cold zone, that is towards this area, towards the side. So that heat center is the area where maximum heat is incorporated. So there is a melting of the metal which takes place, it does not solidify. By the time it flows into the wax pattern, you have the solidification of the metal which takes place. Now we will be talking about hotspot or suckback porosity. Now this hotspot or a suckback porosity is basically a type of localized porosity. Okay, it usually is seen inside the intaglio surface of your. Usually, it's seen inside the intaglio surface of your casting. Okay, so this is where this is your interior surface. This is your normal intaglio surface, and this, when you see, is your suckback porosity, a hotspot or suckback porosity. Usually, it happens intaglio. Okay, Dr. Shruti is asking me what is intaglio. Intaglio means the interior surface of the crown. If you see a crown has two surfaces, doctor. One is your outer surface and one is the interior surface. Now, the interior or the intaglio surface is where you place the cement and you place it onto the tooth preparation. So that is your intaglio surface. Okay. So usually this happens at your occlusoaxial or your incisoaxial angles that are not well rounded. Okay, that are not very well rounded. And also, if you have a pattern where you attach the sprue at 90 degrees. Now, this is a very important question. Most commonly asked question, at what angulation do you attach your sprue to your wax pattern? Never ever attach your sprue at 90 degrees because it is going to cause this type of a porosity there. That is, your suckback porosity is going to be caused. So you always attach it at 45-degree angulations to your wax pattern. Now, when you have a sprue which is attached at 90 degrees, what really happens is that you have the entering metal which impinges on the mold at this point. This creates a higher localized mold temperature, and that is why this is called as a hotspot. So it comes at a very high temperature. It's going to hit here. The temperature is going to increase, and there you create a hotspot where it is going to crack, and you'll feel a suckback porosity. Now, the hotspot may retain a localized pool of molten metal because around that area, the temperature has increased. There is a pool of molten metal which is lying there in that region. So that is what eventually leads to a suckback porosity. So you always try and place it at 45-degree angulations like this. Okay, so that there is a continuous flow of metal which takes place. Next type of localized porosity is microporosity. Now, microporosities are usually irregular in shape. Now, this occurs due to rapid solidification if the mold or the casting temperature becomes low or drops suddenly. Okay. Now, another thing what you have to keep it in mind is that, like I said, the first point, it is irregular in shape. You will come to know why I specified that when you come to the question answer session. And this defect cannot be seen unless the casting is sectioned. So you can't see it on the exterior surface. It is always, or the intaglio surface, it is always within the casting it is present. So unless you section the casting, you are not able to see a micro porosity. So if you can correlate, just remember micro, it is minute and it will be interior, inside. Okay. Next type of porosity is we will be talking about because of the gas entrapments. So first we will talk about subsurface porosity. When your molten metal is flowing and it comes in contact with the low temperature of the mold. Your mold has a lower temperature, so your molten metal is flowing. It first contacts the low temperature of the mold. Now, outer surface, which is in close contact to the mold, will solidify first. Okay, and this makes a very thin skin-like appearance. That is, a skin of solid metal is found on towards the mold wall, which is attached onto the mold wall. Now, when the interior layer shrinks, the outer surface cannot be dragged along with it. So what happens is you have an outer layer, you have a liquid layer, and then again you have a interior layer. So you have three different layers. So that is subsurface porosity. Now, next type of which is due to trapped gases again is gas inclusion porosity and pinhole porosity. Both of them are similar. Both of them happen due to either two reasons. Either you have an entrapment of gas which is released from the molten metal, or you have gas entrapment which is caused due to casting or from the which cannot escape out from the investment. The only difference between a pinhole porosity and a gas inclusion porosity is that a gas inclusion porosity is a larger version of a pinhole porosity. Both of them are similar. Both of them are spherical in shape. The only difference being that they both are different in the sizes. Pinhole is smaller and gas inclusion are larger entrapment of gases. Now coming to the next one, which is residual air entrapment. Now this is entrapped air porosity. It's also called as back pressure porosity. Okay. Now they are formed as large concave depressions in the inside of the casting. This is due to the inability of the air which is trapped inside of the mold to escape from the pores of the investment. Usually happens why? Because of your wrong powder liquid ratio. If your mix is too thick, you don't have proper space where it can escape through that. That is what causes your residual air entrapment. Now coming to incomplete casting. Incomplete casting could be either because your temperature of casting is not ideal, where your casting metal does not flow completely into the casting. Second one, either your casting furnace temperature was not ideal, that there is some wax remnants which is lying there. So if you have a casting, if this is where your investment is covering, you have a slight amount of only your metal has flown only till this area where it is marked in red. So what happens? That tip. So you have a shortage of the margin when your casting is completed. Okay. Now coming to some questions. Okay. So these are the most important part of casting defects. Now, yes, again, one thing I would like to emphasize is that you have to go back and read through for in Anusawis, that is your Phillips. Phillips is really good. The standard textbook for dental materials, I'm sure all of you know about it, but I'm not very sure how much of you mainly go through it. You don't really have to start sitting and reading through Phillips first. Please go back to older question papers. That's why we're here to help. So we refer through other question papers. We give you important stuff, important topics, important areas which is covered in recent question papers. So you know the weightage of from where your most questions come. The only reason why I emphasized on porosity more is because your questions are repeatedly asked from porosity. They keep asking you from porosity in and out, you know. So that is the reason why I mentioned that. So we will come to some questions. Please put up your answers in the text chat box so that I can also see them. So we can have a lively discussion. Shouldn't pull on too long. So your first question is localized shrinkage porosity. Remember what I told you about? Localized shrinkage porosity of a casting is a result of. So these are your options. It could be because of increased sprue length and decreased sprue thickness, increased mold temperature and decreased metal temperature, none of the above, or all of the above. I have some really fast answers coming up. I think most of them have put up B. Somebody has put up A. Yes, the one who's put up A is the correct one. Now, I told you, like, should we go back to localized porosity? Yes. See, here I did mention localized shrinkage porosity is mainly affected by your sprue, right? Your sprue attachment, your angulation of your sprue attachment. If you have a longer sprue, what really happens? You have a long sprue, your molten metal is traveling a very long distance, there are chances it will solidify in between. Okay? If you have a wider sprue, again, the same thing that happens. So that is why your answer is going to be increased sprue length or the decreased sprue thickness. Sorry, not wider sprue. I meant a decreased sprue thickness. Okay, sorry. So you will have to weigh the answers before you go and answer them, because this is very confusing. I understand, because your first thing that must have gone into your mind is that, okay, if you have an increased mold temperature, but if you have an increased mold temperature, there are chances that your molten metal will flow more, right? The mold temperature can also help this one to flow. That could actually cause in an incomplete casting, rather than causing a localized shrinkage porosity, which usually happens at your sprue and wax pattern interface. Okay, so that is why I said when you go through these topics, you have to keep into mind the minute details. That's it. So next question: what is the disadvantage of having a short sprue? This is quite easy. You have incomplete evacuation of gases. Okay, see, if you have a short sprue, you really don't have to keep a reservoir, because only when you have a longer sprue, you need to have a reservoir, right? Because that only then you have to manipulate the amount of flow of your metal. Now, rapid solidification also doesn't happen because you have a short sprue. It's going to flow directly into the wax pattern. Difficulty in removing the casting? No, not really. Casting from the investment and sprue, no, you can just cut it open. That doesn't happen. But incomplete evacuation of gases, yes. Because when you have a shorter sprue, when you have a lost wax technique, the wax has to be eliminated out completely. So if you have a very short sprue, there is chances that your wax is entrapped in between that. And so you have, your gases get entrapped, and that is why uh, the answer is going to be incomplete evacuation of the gases. I'm so sorry. Okay, in these, which of these does not have a spherical shape? I think I by mistake put up the answer also. I did mention this when I was taking the class. Two of them have spherical shapes. So your gas, I'll come to the answer directly. Your microporosity is irregular. Yeah, exactly. Like how you guys have put up. Your microporosity is usually irregular in shape. Your pinhole porosity, gas inclusion, and subsurface, all of them are ideally going to be spherical in shape. How do you control back pressure porosity? How do you control back pressure porosity? You have all answer. You have B, C, D, everything, huh? Great. All those who said B, exactly. That is the answer. Where you place the sprue at least 1/4 inch away from the end of the casting ring. Okay, so that is how you will manipulate back pressure porosity. What is it? Now, this is very similar. What is the difference or probably the gap between a true end of the casting ring and your wax pattern? How many millimeters or how much inches is it going to be? It's kind of like yeah, yes, exactly. So now this same question can be asked in two different ways. Okay, either they can ask you as how many inches. So there you know your answer is going to be 1/4 of an inch. Or sometimes they can ask you in millimeters. So that is going to be 6 millimeters. Ideally, that is going to be 6 millimeters from your, see, this in this picture, you can see this is the 6 millimeters from the ending of your investment to the top of your wax pattern. You should ideally have a 6 millimeter space. Otherwise, your investment is going to crack and there is going to be a loss of casting defects which is going to be associated with that. Okay.